project. So if we go back to that enemy quote was knock out your greatest hits, do one farewell tour, and then quit. And that is exactly what they did. So it's amazing. Um, hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles Governor. My name is John. His name is Andy. I live at the top of the block. No more room for trouble or fuss. Need a change, a positive change. Look, it's my writing on the wall. More on that later. But first, because it's Friday, yes, it is, we have a track to listen to today, which has been carefully selected by one of our wonderful viewers. In this case, it is Thoreau 4367, except no substitute, especially those like 3844s
Oh
bastards.
man,
Um,
they're the worst.
they dropped a comment in PJ Harvey, the mess we're in episode, and suggested another band which I am familiar with, and I'm sure Andy has definitely heard of. Suede.
Oh yeah, I've listened to some Suede before. What's the what?
Yeah.
I know it's on the list. I don't have it in front of me. What's the name of this track by them?
Obsessions.
Obsessions. Yeah, that's not one that I am familiar with. But yeah, I'm looking forward to checking out some more Suede. And hearing what Theroux has to offer. So let me go off and give this thing a spin, and I will come back and let you all know what I've made of it. That's interesting that that motif, pardon me, that is not the guitar or either of the, because there might be an acoustic in there too, along with the electric. I had thought that was I had thought that that was some sort of key or synth instrument, but it sounds like it's like a higher registered harmonica. Also, they totally faked me out in the first few seconds. I thought I had a bum link or that my headphones weren't working. So way to go, Suede. You fooled me. But yeah, let's take that back and kind of feel out that beginning again.
Is the way you pick your clothes off the floor. Is the way you scratch your skin when you're young. Is the t-shirts that you choose like you're in the Air Force. Yeah, the language that you use reacts like chemicals.
Hold on, before we get into the chorus here, I don't know. That sounded. Obviously, he's talking about the habits or, predilections of whoever this is that I'm assuming he's obsessing over or who has his attention, at least at this point in the song. And it sounds like, for the most part, it's the rather inane behaviors of this person he's so enamored with, which I guess underscores that affliction of obsession. But then the the last part was pretty interesting. The language that you use reacts like chemicals or whatever that line was. That sounds a little bit more like, in its own way, kind of judgmental. Like the language that you, maybe it could be, or maybe it depends on what the chemical is, I suppose, or what the chemical reaction is. But in some way, it could be like, it's grating, or it burns me or rubs me the wrong way. But it also could be, this idea of like kind of like endorphins, you know, just to hear you speak sends my heart a flutter or something to that nature. But for the most part, outside of that, like the T-shirt, you know, picking clothes up off the floor, or you know, scratching when you yawn is such inane behavior. But if you are really into somebody, it can, you know, really, I guess, float your boat. But I just as it's going into I loved everything that was happening musically in the verse. I really like that guitar work, but it feels like it's opening up more. Well, one, it sort of feels like it changed halfway through the verse somewhat, or at least the guitar. I think the guitar did. But then as the chorus starts, it kind of opens a bit, almost like the song's blossoming. Let's pull it back just a little bit and take it back into the chorus here.
In the Air Force, yeah, the language that you use reacts like chemicals. Obsessions in my head don't connect with my intellect. It's called obsession when you handle it. It's connected to the hit sound, and it moves with the underground. It's called obsession when you're around. Is the way you close the doors of my car. Is the stupid things you bought with my credit cards. Is the way you don't breathe Camus or Bret Easton Ellis. Yeah, the TCP you use, it stings when we kiss. Obsessions in my head don't connect with my intellect.
Oh, pardon me. Let me pause that for a moment. Now that we've gotten another verse, yeah, this one's interesting because this seems to almost. The first verse seemed to be, like I said, these inane things that catches attention or makes her endearing to him. This sounds like things that either annoy him about her or would annoy him if it were anybody else. The way she shuts the car doors and, you know, kind of her lack of knowledge when it comes to Albert Camus or Bret Easton Ellis, like he's judging her intellect or something like that, or, you know, lack thereof, or at least at the very least, just they don't have the same interests. So that's a very interesting line. Now, I don't know what TCP is or, you know, what that acronym stands for. I'm guessing that's a very British thing, but nonetheless, with the effects it leaves on him is like a burning or something when they kiss or whatever it is, which doesn't sound great. So it's just an interesting juxtaposition. If the first was like a laundry list of the things he finds endearing, no matter what they are or how silly they may seem, and this being like the things that can drive you crazy, which are also kind of like the way you close a door, or the like who you choose to read or not read, shouldn't carry that much weight. So maybe it's the other side of the coin where you obsess positively over somebody and then you obsess negatively over them. And either way, it's the power that these individuals can have over you, whether it's the person you're looking to pursue or the person that you're on the verge of ending things with or have just ended things with. It could be an interesting juxtaposition there. I'm not really quite sure, but I like the lyrical content.
Stings when we kiss. Obsessions in my head don't connect with my intellect. It's called obsession when you handle it. It's connected to the hit sound, and it moves with the underground. It's called obsession when you're around.
Yeah, that was a really fun listen. It didn't. It really stuck to a very common blueprint in how it was, written from a musical standpoint. You got like this brief little introduction, then it goes into the verse, chorus, musical interlude, bridge thing, chorus again because of course, and then it kind of takes you out. And there's millions of songs out there that follow that same blueprint, and a lot of them are pretty damn good, if not great. There's some stinkers in there too, but when there's that many, you'll get a lot of variance on the quality. But this was one of the good ones. I really enjoyed this, and I think because the music within that structure was done really well. You know what I mean? Like that bass work was fabulous. So tastefully done, and it wasn't anything crazy or like show stealing or anything like that, but it was just so even and kind of like perfectly catered for this song and the way it moved. The rhythm of it was lovely. The drums are really great. I loved the both the is it Brett Anderson, is that his name? His singing, and as well as the, I don't know if it was him or him coupled with some of his bandmates, but performing those ooh, that vocalization that was occurring throughout different portions of the song was really great too. Guitar sounded awesome. I mean, there was nothing wrong with that guitar at all. And I think that there was just like this acoustic strumming going on, which does add so much texture and really can fill things out in a tune. So yeah, everybody was picking up their end of the couch, and it was you know it was a team effort. So I really liked this song, and the subject matter was at the very least, even if I'm around the ballpark, um, utterly relatable. Like I think more people than not have, maybe you have to go farther back in the memory bank to recall some of these instances, or maybe they're fresh wounds. Regardless, we've plenty of us have experienced this kind of dynamic, whether it's just the positive aspect, or not positive, because every obsession is a little bit like, whoa, you got to monitor that, but like the sort of pie in the sky ruby tinted glasses obsessive, or the like it gets to a point where every little thing they do becomes annoying, even if it's not even justified. It's just kind of the way it is and how you feel. um Either or both of those, I think most people have experienced, so it is very relatable. So yeah, I really enjoyed this, another go with Suede and giving this song a go, and I think it was a really great shout. I look forward to hearing what John has to say about this one. So, good on you, Through. I really enjoyed this tune. But let's get back to John.
Mind your language, he's back. So you've had to listen to Obsession by Suede. What do you think?
This is a really good listen. There wasn't anything, wrong with this. There wasn't anything that blew my mind. In fact, they really stuck to, God, now that we've been doing this for a while, I've become more and more aware of the blueprint for like writing hit songs, or just what are believed to have hit potential, where it's like you get this nice little intro, verse, chorus, some sort of instrumental embellishment bridge thing, another chorus to sandwich that safely, and then a way to carry you out, sometimes in a mirrored fashion from the beginning, sometimes not, and it often has a fade out. That is a tried and true method. It is probably the number one blueprint that is used, and they used it here, but they used it well. And if you're going to use it, the one thing you got to do to make it stand out is make sure that the music that fills those fields within that blueprint is good. You got to make sure that music is good, has some appeal to it. And I believe that this song had that, so it was a great listen. After a few seconds of silence, which kind of threw me off for the first couple times I went through. I'm like, wait a minute, what's? But yeah, you get the few raps of the drums, and then the songs that like kind of takes immediate shape, equipped with these bright guitar chords and this smooth, what I think at this point is a key motif, or some sort of synth key thing, but I changed my mind in very short order here soon. Some lovely bass movement. Oh my God, that was my favorite probably feature consistently throughout this whole song, was how that bass just meandered up and down the neck, hitting both high and low notes, and just building this lovely movement below this musical surface. And there's this drum beat that's centered around like the hi-hat and snare work with the occasional splash on the cymbals. And as I assume it's Brett Anderson is the lead vocalist of Suede, if I'm not mistaken, vocalizes some ooh, those like oohs, which also kind of feature throughout the rest of the song in different parts. He sings this over top of all of this. But just as the opening salvo was transitioning into the verse, I had that what I thought was that synth key thing because it was just oddly high registered for it to be what it actually ended up being, or at least okay, so the harmonicas that I'm used to hearing are typically like your Tom Petty, Bob Dylan kind of bass harmonica sound. This sounded like a higher register, but the way it resolved before it went into the verse gave it away. Like that's when I knew that those last few notes and the way they hit and resonated, I'm like, oh, that's a harmonica for sure. So the verse kicks off, and it sounds like Anderson is making observations about this possible love interest. He mentions the way she picks her clothes up off the floor, the way she scratches herself when she yawns. Also makes some reference to how she chooses t-shirts like she's in the Air Force, which I don't understand that metaphor or comp, but and then the language that she uses has a reaction like chemicals of some sort, which I thought was interesting because up until this point, it just seems like an inane list of things like that are super minor, but maybe and not a big deal, but that he finds he's obsessed with in one way, shape, or form. Now it could be this super positive way where it's like every little thing she does. It takes me to that. It takes me to that goddamn Counting Crows song we did forever ago, where the line is, "And every time she sneezes, I believe it's love." And you were like, "What?" And I'm like, "Come on, man!" Like it's just like underscoring every little thing, and that's his
It's just
obsessive
about a
nature.
big snot bubble.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
exactly. It's just like streamers under her nostril, giving her a clear goatee. But yeah, so it's the opposite of that, where every little thing grates at him, and it's just like, so there's the obsession has two sides. There's two sides to that coin. There's the, oh my God, every little thing she does, I adore her. Every little thing she does fucking annoys me. And the chemical thing doesn't exactly bring clarity to that question of which side of the coin it is, because chemical could mean endorphins. Like, oh, there's this, it sends my heart aflutter sort of chemical reaction, or it's like it burns or grates at me chemical reaction. So I like that it's ambiguous in that regard. So interesting lyrical choice. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, everything is made up of chemicals, and everything you do usually is some sort of reaction. So yeah, as you're quite right. It can be anything from a fizz pop to a bang
Yeah.
to it could be anything.
Can
I
be
did
anything.
wonder. I won't get it. I won't give it away, but I did wonder if he was talking about himself to start with, but he clearly isn't. But at first, when I heard this, I wondered if it was him talking about himself. And it's a
Yeah.
funny way, and that would be a very clever way of doing it, but sadly
Fair,
not.
yeah. I didn't even think about it that way. But on top of it, like everybody's capable of anything. But those are very male behaviors too. Picking your shit up off the ground, like your clothes up off the ground.
Actually, skin
Scratching
when you
yourself when you
yawn.
yawn. I was thinking about that
Exactly.
line. I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen my fiance just give herself a good scratch while she was yawning. Me, on the other hand. So yeah, it could have been. I never even thought about that, but I did find it curious. The action's not exactly screaming femininity to me, but hey, it's 2026. So um I really like what the electric guitar is doing in the verse and how it transitions slightly sort of halfway through it, giving the verse a little added dimension and breaking up what could have been a lot of samishness if through each of the four lyrical lines. After the second one and before the third and fourth, it kind of changes a little bit, and that was nice. Um, and speaking of transitions, the chorus then is introduced, and it opens up with the titular line. And during this portion, and I'm paraphrasing Anderson here, but he explains that his mindset is dictated by obsession when this person is around, while recognizing that it doesn't connect with his intellect, which I guess is saying like the common sense side of him knows that this behavior is not normal and not what he would normally do. But there is this someone who has, created this chemical reaction in him. So here he is, but at least he's recognizing it. The next step is getting it, resolved. Um, but despite that, he seems that he can't help having this sort of like, visceral and primal reaction when in, we'll just say, her presence. I should also acknowledge how much the song blossoms from the verse to the chorus. You really feel like this. I don't know if it's the chord strike, but it just opens a bit, and you feel that sort of vastness when it hits. So I really enjoyed that too. It kind of gave the chorus a clear identity, divorced from the verse, without it being a jarring transition between the two. We get treated to the second verse, and again the guitar motif switches up a bit in between the first two lines and the last two. Way to keep that up. And in this verse, he sings of the way she closes the doors to his car and the stupid things she purchases with his credit card. He also seems to have a gripe with her lack of familiarity with the works of Albert Camus and Bret Easton Ellis. He also drops allusions to TCP, which I don't even know what that is, but it stings him when they kiss. So I get the idea. He doesn't like that she uses this thing. Um, it looks like you might have an answer to that, or there's just
Yeah,
something
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
stealing.
It's very common. I'm sure. I'm just trying to think what the American version of it is. Basically, it is sort of safe disinfectant which you can use on yourself, your skin. You gargle with it. You be using it
Oh,
on cuts
hi-
and
like
spots, and
like hydrogen peroxide?
no less than that.
Okay. Well, then I don't know. I don't know. Someone, an American who might know the comp, let me know. Or if you're Britain, you know what the Americans use, please feel free to drop it down. But I get it now. At least I have an idea of what this is. So she uses it, I guess, in her mouth. Like you mentioned gargling, and it leaves him stinging when they kiss. So yeah, understood most of these illusions. You just helped me put that all together with the TCP. So this is weird too because this now maybe the first verse you could infer as being the more positive side or the like the heart of fluttery side of obsession. This seems to be more clearly like God, everything like closing a car door unless it's like a slam shouldn't really bother you. It's a pretty inane act. But if it's enough to ruffle your feathers, there's probably some underlying feelings there beyond just I don't like the way she shut my door. Um, Now, depending on what she's using your credit card for, those might be valid feelings and how stupid those purchases really are. He might have a hill to die on there. Um, it's all interesting. It seems like he's really splitting hairs here and that he's got something to gripe about with this individual. So again, I don't know if that's what both verses were meant to do or if he's showing you now both in those two verses, both sides of this coin when it comes to obsession and how in the early stages it can be the first, but in the latter stages it can be what we just sort of witnessed in this last verse. Go ahead.
Speaking, we have a TCP update. All
Oh,
right.
please drop it. Breaking news. Dum dum
So
dum.
I stand corrected. There isn't a direct American version of UK's TCP antiseptic liquid, as it is a specific brand, but you have similar types of product in the US, which is this providone iodine, like betadine,
Oh,
for
okay.
wounds, but also hydrogen peroxide or isopropyl alcohol for general disinfection, for throats,
Yeah.
mouth ulcers, blah blah blah. So there you go.
Yeah, I know the iodine's the
But
red
but
shit, I think, and I would never
but
put that in
yeah,
my
but
mouth.
TCP's gargling use is popular in the UK for sore throats, something less common with the US antiseptics. So you guys
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
tend to gargle with that shit. Probably wise.
I
But
think I,
anyway,
I think I have gargled with hydrogen peroxide. I would never do it with iodine, but it's
yeah.
good to know. Thanks for clearing that up, Doc. Um, so this segues into another chorus, which is followed by this really nice instrumental bit, during which that harmonica provides this lovely little like
Yeah, yeah.
motif along with the electric guitar. It's almost kind of like a baton passing situation, and the guitar doesn't go crazy, but it definitely it steps in the spotlight that was once music abhors a vacuum, so it fills the void that the harmonica had left. And it all sounds really lovely. So yeah, I really enjoyed this part. Musically, we get treated to another chorus after this portion, but it would appear that they switched up the lyrics, at least for the opening sort of salvo of the this third chorus, I believe now. Um, so yeah, something about a comparison of obsessions to sex, simple and complex. The remaining lyrics seem to mirror the previous choruses, though, and when it wraps up, you get more of that ooh vocalization. All while the acoustic strums away and the electric plays that now familiar motif, and the bass walks beneath all of that as the drums carry the beat and the harmonica kind of soars, and it's kind of akin to what we got in the beginning, and from here the song fades to completion. So yeah, overall sentiments here are fairly universal, even if I've misconstrued the angle of the obsession in the verses explained. I think we've all been in a situation where someone or something has had that effect on us, even whether it's the, rose tinted glasses version of obsession or the just hearing you breathe annoys me level of obsession. We've all kind of, for the most part, I think, been in those shoes. So is it, I think, very relatable. And so, whether we are over romanticizing the most minor of things about certain people or overlooking significant differences between ourselves and them, both are born of this like pedestal placement we sometimes afford to those with whom we are obsessed. So, yeah, there's definitely relatability in this track. So, please, John, tell me more.
Hey, I mean, I'll just say this. I'm not a massive fan of Suede. I like their first two albums. I like them a lot more than I used to back in the day when they came out. I thought this song was okay.
Mhm.
It wouldn't add to my sort of internal, greatest hits of Suede. I thought it was fine. I really like the harmonica use of harmonica in this.
Yeah.
But I thought it was decent poppy tune. That's the way they kind of moved in their career. This more sort of edgy side of like mainstream pop, pop. Not quite there, but they're not Taylor Swift, obviously. But
I know what you're
they're
saying. Yeah, I mean, I think the
radio
blueprint that we
friendly.
discussed kind of
Yeah.
outlines that, right? They're just following this tried and true method of creating a song that'll get listens.
I think we just talked about this before, but I wonder when it switched because, like, it used to be that every song started with a chorus. This is our selling point. This is our USB. This is the
Yeah.
bit you're going to be having tomorrow. And like you think of all the old Beatles songs used to start,
Yep.
"Help! I need somebody." It's been a hard day's night. Blah blah blah. It's just
Yeah.
the big hitter was getting the first 10 seconds, and it doesn't do that anymore, does it?
No, no. I don't know when that stopped. Maybe it was like the 90s or something like that, but you're right. I do think going back to like classic rock, you're absolutely right. They would start out with that earworm and then get you in hooked for the rest of the, 2 minutes and 45 seconds of the song or whatever it was.
A lot of Motown does that as well, really
Yep.
well. Get
Yep.
you in. Anyway, um, so yeah, so decent song, but yeah, we'll get into some of the bits and pieces. So, Suede, British band, they are described as Britpop, alt rock, glam rock, and art rock. They were formed in London in 1989 by singer Brett Anderson, guitarist Justine Frischmann, who went on to found Elastica and then quit the industry to become an artist, and bassist Matt Osman, elder brother to Richard Osman, writer and game show host extraordinaire. Um, the band, when they got together, they did find they were in need of a lead guitarist, so they placed an advert in the NME, which said, "Young guitar player needed by London-based band, Smiths, Commotions, Bowie, Pet Shop Boys, no musos. Some things are more important than ability. Call Brett." The ad attracted a 19-year-old Bernard Butler, who soon auditioned and joined the band. They settled on the name Suede. After a series of performances with a very unreliable drum machine, they then decided they perhaps would need a proper full-time drummer. A chap called Justin Welsh briefly filled the role for a few weeks, but it lasted 6 weeks before he joined the Crawley band Spitfire. And what a choice that was for him. Anyway, Suede then placed another advert, and to their surprise, it was answered by former Smiths drummer Mike Joyce. Ultimately, he declined the job. He felt that they needed to forge their own identity and that his presence might hinder them because of some of their similarities to the Smiths, especially the way
Uh,
it's going out. So that was pretty good of him, actually. And I would be gobsmacked, if you're like 1989, 1990, outside of a drummer and the fucking, Smiths
I
drummer
was
comes
just
in.
I was just wondering because you're right. Like in the long view, that's that he did good by them. He did right by them by making
Yeah.
that decision. But they had to been like, fuck. Yeah, I really
Yeah,
want him to
yeah.
be our drummer. You know,
I
it's
know. I mean,
ability. You know he's talented.
yeah,
And hey, we literally said in our last ad we're going for a Smith sound to some degree.
yeah.
So what better to have their
And
drummer or former
that
drummer?
would be the hook on every article about them, is
Yeah,
a
you're
featuring.
right. And that was what he was saying. So yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah. So in June 1990, they did find a permanent drummer, Simon Gilbert, through a chap called Ricky Gervais,
Oh, I've
who
heard tell of
they were
him.
both working at London University, and Gervais was in the music industry. He
Yeah.
did have his own band, and
Yeah.
he actually managed Suede for a short time before he turned towards comedy. So yeah. So spring '91. Anderson and Fishman had broken up their romantic relationship. Fishman began dating Blur frontman Damon Albarn, and tensions grew. I think we talked about this before. Um, Bernard Butler recalled, she'd turn up late for rehearsals and say the worst thing in the world. I've been on a Blur video shoot. That was when it ended, really. I think it was the day after she said that, Brett phoned me up and said, I've kicked her out. After Fishman's departure, the character of the group shifted. Um, if Justine hadn't left the band, Anderson remarked, I don't think we'd have got anywhere. It was a combination of being personally motivated and the chemistry being right once she left.
Mm.
Anderson and Butler then became close friends, started writing several songs together. Fast forward a little bit, the band then signed with Nude Records in 1992. Suede were hailed as the next big thing. And before they'd even released a single, Melody Maker featured the band on the cover of an April issue that year with the headline Suede, the best new band in Britain. Um, it was around that time, not shortly, a few months after that, I saw them live. And I didn't appreciate them at all. And it's really, I think half of
Mm.
that was, I didn't think much too, and half of that was my mental attitude. So I couldn't tell you now if I would enjoy them now, thinking back on it, because you can't recreate that. Anyway, they had a couple of singles. First one, The Drowners, which I really like now, but at the time when I heard it, I was disgusted by their sort of like this knockoff Bowie impersonation. I was like, oh my God. But this distance, I actually really like it now. But their third single, Animal Nitrate, which has this amazing hook, which is infuriating. I think it drove Bernard Butler mad trying to play it.
Mhm.
It broke the top 10 in the UK in the singles chart, and then their self-titled album that on there
Mhm.
entered the British charts at #1. It registered the biggest initial sales for a debut album since Frankie Goes to Hollywood's Welcome to the Pleasure Dome a decade before. It sold over 100,000 copies in its first week release, going gold on its second day. And the album then won the Mercury Prize in 1993. The band donated the 25 grand prize money to cancer research.
Mm. That's
Um,
nice.
Then the standalone single "Stay Together," which is a quite an odd sort of Suede song for that period, became their highest charting single at the time, reaching #3. However, this new expansive sound fractured the band and led to the departure
Mm.
of Butler. There were already tensions when they toured in America. He was starting to fracture from the group, and they were not speak to each other. His dad died, and they had to cancel part of the tour, which then irked them, and he didn't like their attitude either. Blah blah blah. So, despite the success of that single, Stay Together, the band has since distanced themselves entirely from that song, and a version usually attributed to issues with Butler at the time.
Mm.
So yeah, it was during this time that Anderson also he was very much rent a quote. People would go to him and he'd say something outrageous like, I'm a bisexual man who hasn't had a homosexual experience and nonsense like that. But he
Mm.
distanced himself from what was dubbed the laddish Britpop movement, which was seen as many that set the scene for its emergence. Bands like Blur, Oasis, and Pulp began to dominate the music scene, where Suede was seen as a bit more experimental and introverted. Tensions within the band worsened during the recording of the album when Butler criticised Anderson in a rare interview, claiming that Anderson worked too slowly and was too concerned with rock stardom. Of Anderson, he said, in quotes, he's not a musician at all. It's very difficult to get him around anything that isn't ABC. So, you imagine, this is a great atmosphere. They're recording the second album, More Fractures. Butler would record his guitar parts during the day and then leave, and then Anderson would come in only when he's left in the studio in the evening. Not great. It reached breaking point when Butler clashed with the producer, a chap called Ed Buller, and he insisted that he be fired as Butler wanted to produce the record himself. Butler then gave Anderson an ultimatum demanding it's either him or me. And I called his bluff, Anderson said. So days after he went off for his wedding, Butler returned to the studio to find he was not allowed in and all his guitars were left out on the street.
Wow.
There's other bits and pieces, but yeah. In the band's first interview as a three-piece, Anderson had foreseen the scenario, apparently, telling the NME, I saw it coming 2 years ago. It was no shock. I don't think he ever really wanted to be in the band or anything that goes with it. Anyway, the second album, which he only had done Butler done about a quarter or a third of the guitar work, but the second album came out, Dogman Star. It was praised by the critics. It entered the charts at number 3. It quickly slipped downwards, and it did get some negative sort of reviews, particularly in the States. Rolling Stones described it as one of the most pretentious albums ever released by a major label. There's some competition there.
Yeah.
But over time, it's now seen as one of the decade's great rock albums, to be fair. So in 1994, Suede then announced, another little kick in the teeth for Mr. Butler, that 17-year-old Richard Oakes was to become the new guitarist. So he was replaced by a teenager. After reading about Butler's departure, Oakes sent a demo tape to the band's fan club. And when the drummer Gilbert heard Anderson playing back the tape while going through audition tapes, he thought that it was an early Suede demo. That's how much it sounded like.
Wow.
So he was hired. They then did another 2 albums, Coming Up in 96 and Head Music in 99. Both hit the number 1 spot in the charts. Coming Up actually got platinum status, and they spawned 5 top 10 single hits as well. This track, Obsession, is from their 5th album, A New Morning, released in 2002. So, personnel at this point: Brett Anderson, vocals, percussion, tambourine, they call it percussion. Simon Gilbert, drums. Alex Lee, acoustic guitar, keyboards, harmonica. This is for the album. Wurlitzer, piano, clavinet, organ, electric guitar, synthesizer, Rhodes, Mellotron, backing vocals. Richard Oakes, electric guitar, acoustic guitar, piano, Rhodes, clavinet, backing vocals. Neil Cudling, keyboards, and Matt Osman, electric bass, Hammond organ. So Anderson actually became sober. This record kicked his crack addiction, and he claimed that A New Morning was the first ever Suede record that wasn't influenced in its making by drugs. He wrote the lyrics isolated in a country house in Surrey, away from the rest of the band, where he immersed himself in music and literature, reading hence the references. The album received mixed reviews. Metacritic score of 65. And the album itself snaffled up the much sought-after number 24 slot in the UK albums charts. Bear in mind, the last 4 albums were 1, 3, 1, and 1. Wasn't seen as very successful. Brett Anderson said, the fact we made this album is one of the things I regret most about Suede's career. The band would have been loved more if we had stopped making music before this. When we made this, we were very confused about what we wanted the band to be and where we wanted to go. There was a part of me that wanted to make an electronic album, a part of me that wanted to make a folk album. So we combined these elements and made a very confused record. And that was him talking in 2011. So this track was the second single from the album, and it reached number 29 in the charts. NME writer Julian Marshall appeared to be clairvoyant with the future of Suede's demise, because he said in his 2002 review of the song, the sad truth is that Obsessions may be Suede's last half-decent single. If Brett Anderson hasn't made any resolutions for 2003 yet, let Enemy offer some advice. Knock out the Greatest Hits album and a final tour now before everybody stops caring altogether. The Guardian was more favourable. Brett Anderson's vocals can often sound not unlike a cat complaining to be let inside. But on this track, he's toned it down, his trademark wail, from 11 to about a 7. The song is much better for this decision and dips and soars in all the right places. Drowned in Sound rated the single 6 out of 10. They felt Suede's music and lyrics offered nothing new. While praising it as one of Anderson's best vocal performances, they wrote the band produced another sublime chorus of glittered sadness. Nothing changes in Suede world. That's probably a little bit harsh. But anyway, the lyrics. It's the way you pick your clothes off the floor. It's the way you scratch your skin when you yawn. Sorry, just to interrupt. So bearing in mind he's come off the drugs. And this song is called Obsessions. I'm just wondering if it's to do with the sort of chemical imbalances in his head as well, which is why I thought perhaps it might be about himself, but maybe it is. Maybe it's about an idealized version of either him or his potential partner or whatever.
Right.
It's a combination of things. But anyway, it's the way you put your clothes on the floor. It's the way you scratch your skin when you yawn. It's the t-shirts that you choose, like you're in the Air Force. Yeah, the language that you use reacts like chemicals. Obsessions in my head don't connect with my intellect. It's called obsession. Can you handle it? It's connected to the hip sounds and it moves with the underground. It's called obsession when you're around. It's the way you close the doors of my car. It's the stupid things you buy with my credit card. It's the way you don't read Camus or Bret Easton Ellis. Yeah, the TCP you use, it stings when we kiss. Obsessions in my head don't connect with my intellect. It's called obsession. Can you handle it? It's connected to the hip sounds and it moves to the underground. It's called obsession when you're around. Then we get that bridge. And as you say, I really like the harmonica in this bridge bit. It sounds great. And it's definitely, there's more a layered, complex sound to this than the earlier Suede. But that's a good or a bad thing, depends on your taste. Then I come back in. Obsession is like sex. It's simple and complex. It's called obsession. Can you handle it? It's connected to the hip sounds and it moves to the underground. It's called obsession when you're around. And it's by Calvin Klein. So Suede then released a compilation album called Singles in 2003. Which featured 2 new songs. Shortly after the release of the Greatest Hits, the group then issued a joint statement explaining that after their current tour, that Suede would not be working together for the foreseeable future. In quote, Suede would like to announce that from next year, 2004, they'll be working on their own individual projects. So if we go back to that enemy quote, was knock out your greatest hits, do one farewell tour, and then quit. And that is exactly what they did. So it's amazing. Anderson later stated that he felt he needed to break out of Suede as he was on an artistic dead end, saying, I need to do whatever it takes to get my demon back. Obsessions is a fan favourite of later Suede and is notable as the only song from A New Morning that Suede performed at the 2010 reunion gigs when they got back together. It's also the only edition for New Morning to appear on the 2010 compilation, The Best of Suede. So the band is still together. They're still releasing albums. They've released a further 5 albums since they got back together in 2010. And those albums reached number 10, number 6, number 5, number 2 in the UK charts. And the latest album, Antidepressants, came out in September of 2025 and again hit the number 2 spot. So they're doing all right.
They just needed a break, it sounds like, for themselves and from each other. And that was, the distance made everything kind of come back together nicely when they did.
Yeah, so yes.
Yeah.
So there you go. Obsessions by Suede.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you liked it, Andy. Thanks for listening to it. And thanks again to Peru 4367 for suggesting it. An interesting one of the Suede catalogue. I pretty much stopped listening to Suede after the 3rd album coming up. I did listen to it, but it just became, it was clear the way they were going, and fairness to them, got to make a living and all that, but it was a bit too radio friendly, sort of poppy for me. If I'm really, really honest, I think that first album's great. Second album's good, but first album's probably more of my taste. But yeah.
Gotcha.
So not so familiar with this stuff, so yeah. Anyway, I shall wrap things up. Folks out there, please do hit the like button if you like this and tell us what you think about this song. And perhaps there are Suede fans amongst you who know more and can tell us reliably that the latest stuff is much better than the earlier stuff, and we're all idiots for not listening to it. So please do drop us a line, tell us what you think. We'd love to hear from you. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. We really appreciate everybody who does support the channel. And one of the things we do to show that support is we do a track every Friday suggested by one of you guys. So all you have to do is drop a comment in any of the episodes. We add it to the list. We then pass the list on to the small team of children working in our cellar that knock out all the sort of the notes for the episode. And then finally, we get around to it at some point before we're raided by ice. That being said, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see all of you in the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.